welcome to the Wellness League podcast with your host Ella. And today, my friend is Millie Walker. I met Millie 8 years ago, actually this week, when I did my Cert 4 in fitness, and she was actually the teacher. So, shall we dive in? Let's get started. Firstly, who are you?
Does anyone really ever know?
No.
And what you tell them is your own prefabricated truth anyway,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much, right?
So what I appear to show you could be anything. I'd like to say that I'm someone that hopefully makes the most out of their life and really enjoys what they do and hopefully treats people reasonably well. Yeah.
Maybe I should take question to the end of the episode and see who really are you at the end.
That's a good one.
So, jumping in, what's your earliest memory of being fit?
So I guess school sport was always an area where I found it pretty easy just to be competitive and like explore different sports. So that was always fun.
What kind of sports were you jumping into?
Hockey, tennis, football, athletics, swimming, pretty much everything apart from netball.
Yeah, right.
But pretty early on, I think triathlon tickled my fancy and I decided I wanted to train for it. So every day after school for about 3 months, I'd get home and then I'd ride my bike around several blocks into the city and then back, and then I'd go for a run and then I'd go for a swim at the very
So like a
end.
reverse try.
Yeah, because otherwise I wouldn't be in the pool and I wouldn't be all sweaty. So
Yeah,
it's much
true.
nicer
That's
to do it
okay.
again
That's a smart
sometimes.
setup.
Yeah.
Maybe they should just make the race like that in general.
But if you think about it, then they'd be like in big nets and having to drag people out of the water because they'd be
True.
exhausted. They'd be like, "Do we lose one? How many have we had going so far?"
But at the same time, your dehydration would almost like even out because you're going into the water, so you'd be like refueling as you finish.
It's an interesting theory. I'm not sure if you get it past the officials and past the insurance, but I'd like to do it. It reminds me of the like Formula One style racing where you do the 3 legs back to back 3 times.
Yeah.
And I actually really like that format. So
That's a cool setup.
you end up with people getting on the bike with their goggles around their neck, people going out for the run with their helmet still on, and people doing the whole thing in running shoes, including the swim. So it's a big mess.
Yeah.
But
Where
it's
was
so
the
much
last time
fun.
they did that? I haven't seen that in a
West
while.
Lakes about 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I
Yeah.
reckon I haven't seen that set up in a while, but they
No.
need to bring that back.
Yeah, it would be great. Love to hear it.
So from the triathlon, you started racing.
No, then I took about a 10-year hiatus.
Oh,
so
okay.
I spent a lot of time playing water polo, a lot of time playing hockey and doing all the associated sports alongside those before I got back into triathlon again.
How good. And back into triathlon, where'd you start?
So after the brief foray around 15 or 16 years, I then took a bit of a break until I was around, say, 23 or 24.
Yeah.
So that's looking like about a 20-year career
You
there.
really it was last year, guys.
And I guess my motivator then was I wanted to enjoy exploring different parts of where I was in Australia, and going out to do different races in different areas was something I was really enthusiastic about.
Yeah.
And to have a whole group of mates that could go and do something fit and fun and water-based was always a dream. And then eventually I got a group of mates and we had a 10-year plan and we had races all around Australia that we'd planned to do, and we ticked off about 7 or 8, and then I think I got pregnant and might have missed 1 or 2, but it's just such a lovely thing to be able to do, to take a whole group of mates to go away and do something really fun.
Which races did you do and what was your favourite one?
So I think we did a few different things like trail walkers, wild endurance in the Blue Mountains. We did the Noosa Triathlon. We went down and did the Canberra Half Ironman. We did various hikes around Queensland, and let me think, what else? There's been quite a lot. And I think the favourite, which I'll keep coming back to, is Noosa, because it's just such a great energy and such a great triathlon. So
Yeah, definitely. It's
It's
such a
definitely
good distance too. It's right there in between like your sprint and then you're half Ironman, but it's like the sweet spot right in the middle.
Absolutely.
How many times have you done that race now?
I'm up to 7, and
Oh,
the
nice.
goal is to get to 10, so then I get my legend status, but that's still a little way out.
How many
so.
times has Ash Gentle been up there with you? Or have you been up there with her?
I think probably at least 5.
Okay.
So, yeah, she's an absolute weapon. She's so fast
Yeah.
and very inspiring.
Yeah,
Just the way she races with a massive smile on her face. And, yeah.
So good. And then, so in between that time, when did you become a trainer?
So I was at uni in Sydney. About halfway through my degree, I realised I didn't really want to do it.
Yeah.
So this was a degree in social and political science, and which was really interesting, but I could sort of see where the job was leaning towards, which was a whole lot of office-based, sitting down,
Like a social
a
work
lot
kind
of
of role?
policy writing and
Yeah.
things like that. And I did realise that wasn't for me, so I started working part-time in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
Started doing some personal training, and yeah, I guess the rest is history.
And from there, what did you do with your career in?
So
Training people.
after doing my qualifications and training in some gorgeous places like next to the Sydney Harbour and on Bondi Beach,
Oh.
I
Hang on, with the lifeguards running past at Bondi. Did you need to rescue
Absolutely.
any of them?
Didn't need to rescue any of them, but I did take them for a boot camp on Coogee Beach at one point, which was good fun.
Oh, how good. Any of them that are still on the show?
Some of them were on the show, but I never remember names because I didn't have a telly for 20 years,
Yeah.
so missed out on all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But I think one of the fun things about sort of being location based is I could ride my bike in between different sessions and fitness programs, but I realised the real money was in corporate fitness.
Yes.
So I applied for my first corporate job as corporate fitness coordinator for Ernst & Young, and I thought this would be the best job ever. I had trained a few people in the morning, and I was playing pool with my friend in the pub. The owner of the business rang, and I was so excited when he rang, and he told me I didn't have the job.
Oh.
And I don't know what it was, but I just wanted him to know how keen I was. And I said, look, no problems at all. I really wanted the job. I just want to let you know, is there anything you would be looking for next time in case another job pops up? What would you want me to have, or what sort of experience would you be interested in? Because I'd be keen to get this job in the future, maybe in a few years' time with a bit more experience under my belt. He said, actually, yeah. So he talked me through a few different things. And I said, great, thank you very much for your feedback, and didn't expect to hear anything back. 3 months later, he rang and said, right, so the girl I hired has moved back to Ireland, and you're on.
Oh.
And so I was there for about 5 to 7 years. And
And this is still in Sydney, right?
yeah, so had a big move from their facility in Kent Street up to level 37 of World Tower. So this beautiful views looking across all of Sydney City, and
how
the gym
good.
taking up the entire floor. And this is when corporate budgets were endless.
Yeah.
And so an amazing mentor for my business, who was John Felton. He was an ex-Olympian. I think he was an Olympic medalist in the canoe slalom.
Yeah.
And he was a great mentor, and he helped, I guess, grow the way that I saw myself in the fitness industry. He also helped me consider what sort of personal growth next steps would be to, I guess, develop myself as not only a human, but as a trainer, and also
Yeah.
to, I guess, just to develop my career.
I feel like mentors in the fitness industry, well, in any industry, are so important to
Absolutely.
help growth. And it's hard to find the right one who will help support you through that. But once you find somebody like that, you're on the money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And because he was so enthusiastic and interested in other people, and I guess seeing other people grow, he attracted staff who are very like-minded. So the whole staff there ended up being people that, still support each other today and stay in contact, which is pretty amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. From working there to training movie stars, how did we get in between?
So alongside all of this, I had started at uni doing stand-in commercials, extra work, just because I thought it was fun. And also, to be honest, I thought it was kind of good for me to experience, to build a bit of resilience, like get a bit of rejection. So I'd love going to auditions. I didn't really care if I got them or not. I would try out for anything just
Yeah.
in case.
Oh,
so I tried
so
out
good.
to be a Rabbitohs cheerleader. didn't have a dance background, learned new routine, which was great.
Yeah.
I tried out for things like Australian Idol, Gladiator, all these fun shows where I got to have a great experience, made it through a few rounds. I guess part of it was also about developing that resilience and that backbone, but also realizing it's not personal.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know who else is lined up and what they're looking for. So
But you also feel like when you're acting, it's almost like the same thing as being a trainer. You're not yourself because you're putting on a performance as to kind of teach a class, whereas that's kind of similar.
I think teaching a class is a bit different because teaching a class, I don't necessarily see it as being a performer. You might just be trying to encourage people to get the most out of themselves. So it's not
Yeah.
really, I don't think it's really about you. I think it's more about them and trying to draw the best out of them and find different
Yeah.
ways to motivate them. And
Yeah, that's
certainly
true.
in teaching yoga, which I'm sure we'll get to later,
Yeah.
it definitely can't be a performance because otherwise it just feels really inauthentic. And it's like, who is this weirdo at the
That's
front?
true. Yeah. And so, movie stars, who did we train?
So I was the trainer for the Sapphires.
Oh, wow.
Movie. I guess I started when I was on set, and particularly when I went to do a few, like, bit of location work up near Wiseman's Ferry. I had a few of the actors and some of the sound people wanted me to run boxing classes and things early morning before we started on set.
Yeah.
So I
Were
did
you in it as well? Is that how you got a part of this?
Yeah, so I did a bit of stand-in work. I tried my hand at stunts as
Yeah.
well, but I wasn't very good at them. A lot of the other stunties had a background in circus or gymnastics, so their body control was a lot better than mine. So I was just happy to be involved and
Yeah.
just getting a part in the background, which was fantastic.
How good. From there, let's go into your yoga instructing. So where did that come along?
So yoga instructing, I'd always had a love of it since I was around 18 and my sister took me to my first yoga class. Done some amazing classes, I guess, all over the world whenever I travelled, and just found it was almost like coming home. You know, just that feeling of, oh, it's okay to be here right now in this
Yeah.
body, in this space. I think for someone that is very action driven and very motivated to do lots of things
Yeah.
was something that I also needed as much as maybe the participants needed. So
Yeah.
I guess I did a lot of participating in yoga classes at some wonderful yoga studios in Bondi, and then one of my favourites, which was the living room in Coogee, which is basically looks out over Coogee Beach, and it's just the most beautiful spot. And then I must have finished my yoga teacher training in around 8 years ago, because I remember for one of my qualifications, I was still breastfeeding and my husband came to drop off the baby to me at the training so I could feed her and then pass her back again.
Yeah.
So I did my training in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne with a company called Yoga Fit, which is a Canadian company.
Yep.
They had some amazing instructors that they flew in from Canada and the States and Hawaii, and you got a really broad understanding of anatomy through the way they cued. But then I
Yeah.
also did yin teacher training through Power Living Studio. That was amazing as well. It was a residential week up in Byron Bay,
Wow.
and it was, yeah, just glorious.
So how long does it actually take to train to be a yoga instructor? And you don't actually need to cert 3 or 4 behind it, right?
No, so they do require you to qualify in anatomy and get
Yes.
your 200 hours up.
Okay.
I found it easier to do this, I guess, over a couple of years and just teach in between as I got through my next level of qualification.
Yeah.
But I got a fair bit of recognition of prior learning due to all teaching anatomy and
Yes,
things like
yeah.
that. So that was helpful.
And where are some of the best places that you've taught a class?
I think some of the most amazing ones I've taught teaching in Byron Bay.
Oh, cool.
I've had a surfing and yoga retreat there, which was amazing and so much fun.
Yeah, any more of those to come?
Oh, fingers crossed. COVID put a bit of a dampener in my massive plans.
Yeah.
I've taught at a few music festivals,
Oh,
which has
yeah?
been amazing. I think just, the energy of people at the end of a weekend when they've had a really big night or a really big event, they're really happy to do a nice gentle flow in the sunshine. So.
Not like it's not a place that I would have thought to have found a class.
But I guess if it's camping or sleepover one,
Yeah.
then they're, more likely to get up in the
Yeah.
morning and want to
True,
go and do
true.
something.
What is it about Byron and yoga, do you think? What do you think that makes them
Ooh,
go together
there's something
so
in the
well?
water.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, actually. I think there's, the hippie vibe and,
Yeah.
all that sort of surf culture, which links so well to
People wanting
yoga.
to be mobile so they can surf better.
Absolutely. And, people of all ages doing things from 7-year-olds to 97-year-olds, which is,
Crazy.
so inspiring.
How good. And where are we up to?
Oh, and of course, Thailand.
Oh,
Teaching
yeah,
in Thailand.
let's go into Thailand.
Teaching in Thailand was amazing. So I got an opportunity. I think they had an instructor who broke a leg or something like that, and they needed an emergency instructor to go and fill in for a month or two in Thailand. So I was luckily, I think my hubby had got some long service leave or something like that, and he had 6 weeks off, and I think he could come and join me for the second part. So I went over to Thailand and started teaching a couple of times a day in the heat, and my mobility immediately started to really extend, which was just glorious.
Oh, nice.
And
Which part of Thailand were you in?
It was in Phuket,
Yeah.
and it was on a surf beach and at a glorious resort called Club Med. And it's been a resort that I've been to in many other parts of the world, and it's a really
Yeah.
nice sort of family-friendly resort, and they encourage you to chat with other people, sit with other people, and enjoy different cultures as well. So
How good.
I taught aqua yoga for the first time there, which was was
Okay.
interesting because I had to remember that you don't want to sort of roll down and touch your toes if you're doing aqua yoga, otherwise
No.
people are going to end up
How do
with
you do
bubbles
like
up
a
their
downward
nose.
dog
You
in the
don't do
water?
a downward dog in the water. Yeah, it doesn't happen. It won't
No.
work. So you modify and do a little more balance and stability
Ah,
and a lot more
okay.
chair pose and things like that.
How deep's the water though?
Well, this one was around mid-chest height, so
Like
it was quite
1.2-ish?
Yeah.
Oh, so interesting though.
It's quite deep. Yeah.
And then from there, you're still teaching yoga now?
Yes, I taught my last class on Wednesday night. It had been about a month or so since I taught, and I did feel a little bit rusty and a little bit stiff.
Yeah.
At one point, I did notice that I was queuing not in reverse, and so then half the people had their left leg up and the other half had their right up. And when we eventually made it to Warrior 2, they're all kind of facing inwards, and it was kind of like a nice vibe. And I was like, man, now smile at the person across the room from you. And I know that they knew that I'd said the wrong foot, but they were fine with it.
I feel like you're smart enough in a yoga class that you know which foot just automatically goes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's a point where you just zone out and you just like do it right somehow.
Yeah, and then everyone's looking at the window instead of half people looking at the window, half people looking at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny. Let's go into Coast Trek.
Coast Trek. Oh, one of my passions.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's dive deep into that. So where did that begin? And tell us a bit about the whole thing.
So back sort of around the same time that I was working as corporate fitness coordinator, I started working for a company called Wild Women on Top. And Wild Women on Top is all about training women up for amazing adventures and just building that sense of agency and independence in women who might not travel overseas by themselves otherwise, or who just want to challenge themselves to do something pretty epic. So
Yeah.
the 7 Summits very highly in their sights, but also really off the grid adventures as well. So at the same time, when I think I was first going to the fitness convention, went there and I saw an ad saying, "Are you adventurous? Would you like to come and work with Wild Women on Top?" And I was like, I have no idea what that is. So I went.
What a marketing ad though.
Yeah, I went and I had met with Di, who's their fearless leader, for coffee, and she was just so dynamic, such a pocket rocket. We immediately connected, and since then we've spent time doing handstands on top of mountains in South America. We've been doing incredible wild endurance 100K treks together,
Yeah.
doing some epic long runs and events, and fundraising as well. I think at one point there's an event called the Trail Walker or Trailblazer, I think it is in South Australia, which raises money for Oxfam, and Oxfam was some place that I volunteered at through uni one day a week, and I'd always heard about it. And so we eventually started training up women to do this Trail Walker as well. And I think I was up to about 6 or so of the 100K events, and we thought we should make our own event, and then we could choose where the money goes. And we just started off suggesting ideas and routes and thinking about Sydney, about how it would work. And the first one we did like a trial run, and that was around 12 years ago. I'd mapped the bottom half of the route, and my friend Lisa had mapped the top half of the route. We thought we had it all set, and we had checkpoints that were going to help people just as a little test run. So nothing advertised yet, just a little bit of test run. Supporting people along the way, got to the end, and one of the girls said, I think it was 120 Ks. It's like, whoops. So I don't know what happened.
You just feel like your GPS was out on your watch.
Did you go off track to go to the loo? No, it was nothing like that. So we learned a lot along the way, and Coast Trek now has raised over $20 million for the Fred Follows Foundation. It's raised over $10 million for Beyond Blue. It's now raising money for the Heart Foundation, and they're just really sharing the love around. So
that's amazing.
Now it's in Margaret River, the Sunshine Coast, Mornington Peninsula, Sydney, and the Fleurieu Peninsula.
And are you still involved in planning those? So,
yes, helped to plan the original route. I remember I'd moved down to Adelaide, got a call from Di on my phone. I was like, I know why you're ringing me. Because at that point, there was only the Sydney Coast Trek, but I could tell that she was quite keen to do an Adelaide one as well.
Yeah.
So we worked with national parks to help sort of finalise the route and figure out what the terrain could handle in terms of the amount of people they could potentially let on the route.
Yeah, and also what the people could handle.
Once also we proved that we could keep the area safe and clean and all those sorts of things, they allowed us to have a few more people on board, which has been amazing.
And so these routes, do you go and try them out before you send the people out on
Absolutely.
them? Absolutely.
You can't just send them on the loose in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
With some dodgy cliff edges, and there are some big ones there.
Yeah.
But I think what I really love about something like that is it gives people a bit of a taste about what is possible. A lot of people who do Coast Trek, there's a lot of seasoned professionals as well, but there's a lot of first timers that might be something that's really outside their comfort zone, whether it's 20 Ks, 30 Ks, 50 Ks or 60 Ks.
Yeah.
It might be something that really stretches them and they realise what they're actually capable of. And I love that. They see people cross the finish line and just the way they see themselves from then, I think that's, it's really heartening to see sort of so many times I've been on the finish line and you just get goosebumps because you see someone who's never seen their partner or their mum or their friend do something for themselves like that.
Yeah.
It's
so
pretty
100K,
amazing.
how long's that on average take to do?
It depends on, if you're one of the Gurkhas who used to come down, which is the the military used to come down and do the Sydney one, they do it in about 13. I think our fastest 100 through the Blue Mountains was probably around 17. So a lot of hills, a lot of...
And you stop every, 20, 30K?
Well, you kind of eat on the way, but you try and coordinate loo visits. So, there's checkpoints, I think, every 20 or something like that.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, nice.
it balances out.
And the route in the SA one, where are we going?
So the route in South Australia, it's absolutely glorious. So you start around Parsons Beach.
Yep.
And then you're going along the Hyson Trail all around the Waipinga Cliffs and then around Kings Beach, a little loop around Granite Island, and then you continue along some stairs, a little bit of sand, some paths, and then end up near Port Elliot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a nice route.
Yeah.
And when's the next one?
The next one in Adelaide is on the 1st of September.
Yep.
But I'm kind of thinking I might want to go and do the Sydney one first with a few mates, and that's on, I believe, the 3rd of May.
Obviously, they're all different routes and stuff. What's your average time for 100K?
The Coast Treks are normally around 60, and I have absolutely no idea what the average time for that is. Probably, I guess it's a fair bit slow. We do tend to do a lot more walking than running or trotting, as we like to call it.
Yes.
So probably somewhere between 10 and 12 hours.
Yeah, nice. How do you train for something like that?
Intervals, a lot of intervals because you can't go out and do really long ones all the time. So a lot of intervals, a lot of stairs, and just building up time on feet.
Yeah. So say for the September race next year, how long before would you start training for something like that?
So they've got a specific training program that they send you
cool.
once you sign up, which is amazing, and it gives you all the hot tips about how to train for something like that, how to protect your feet and how to deal with blisters, all those important
I feel like that's
things.
Such a common issue.
Fueling as well.
Yeah.
And so generally you'll try and give yourself between 12 and 20 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I honestly thought it was going to be a lot longer than that.
No, I think once you get into a bit of a groove and a routine, that's really good fun.
And then the recovery after, how many days does it take to bounce back after walking that far?
Well, I remember I used to do 100 Ks, finish at 3 a.m. and then be down at Coogee Beach to run a 7 a.m. session. but I wouldn't bend down a lot to pick up the weights. I'd encourage other people to do the demos for me instead. I'd be like, as per so and so,
Yeah.
why don't you do a squat press like Sally? Thank you, Sally. So to tell you a little bit more about Wild Women on Top, what I was doing when I was one of their trek training coaches was taking women out for 3-hour hikes at night when they were free. So it was a lot of mums around the eastern suburbs in Sydney and I guess lower northern beaches, and women who had I guess put the kids to bed and now had this free time I say, between 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. Mondays and Wednesday nights
Yeah.
with a 15-kilo backpack in the Sydney National Parks. So we'd go out, basically meet in a little dark corner with our headlamps on. Some of them would have trekking poles, and eventually we'd weigh in our backpacks so I could make sure everyone was building up their weight accordingly, depending on what they had to carry for the next hike. And then we'd basically trek around and lift our packs up and over heavy rocks, practice doing sets of stairs, clambering over slippery surfaces, sneaking around rocky caves. And it was such good cross training for triathlon, for ultra running, for all the different interesting things that I was doing at the time. So
Yeah.
that was quite fun. And I guess taking women on various treks along with that, like hiking in the Blue Mountains and doing the big 100K trek on Fraser Island. I think it's now called Kurai.
Yeah, it's got a new name, hey. Yeah.
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also around that time, must have been around 2000 and when was the GFC? 2000.
Oh, it was I was in primary school.
Nine.
Isn't it 2000?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 8, 9, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe 2008. We were in South America, so no contact with any of what was going on in the world. I'd taken 17 women to go trekking the Andes, and we were on a 10-day hike and had no idea what was going on. And I flew straight from Bolivia to New York right as the GFC had hit, and I had no idea what was going on. But my friend who I was staying with, Olivia, she had to work these crazy long hours because she was working for a financial institution, and it was like the town had gone do or die. Like everyone was going out, they were going nuts. People were like dancing on the bars, and she said, this is not normal. Like people don't normally do this. Like they had just gone gung-ho. It was almost like the first few weekends when people were allowed out after COVID. They're like, it might never happen again. Let's go for it.
The freedom, like when you're being looked up.
Money might disappear entirely. I've lost thousands. Let's go for it. I'm like, oh, wow.
What else have you got to lose if you've lost all your money? Bolivia's the one where they have that lake, right? And it's like really the Salt Lake, and you walk along it.
Absolutely. And the world's most dangerous road. So,
yes.
So I did a little bit of mountain biking in Bolivia and a bit of single trail. It was amazing. Had all that fitness from being up in the mountains. And the altitude sickness was interesting. I never found it really hit me too bad this time. So I was quite happy. But
how do you cope with that? Like what kind of symptoms did you have?
I just felt like a little bit lightheaded, but nothing too bad. I remember one of the girls at dinner, and we're sort of kind of sitting around this stony rocky table, and we've got these little camp fold out chairs, and I remember looking at her and thinking, you don't look quite right. And as I decided to come over and just have a little quiet chat to her, she literally fell out of her chair and then just vomited all over me.
Oh my God.
And she's trying to apologize, and I'm like, no, look, seriously, I've been vomited all over. If you've been a trainer for long enough, you've been vomited on. Like, it's no big deal. You just get it out, and make sure you're staying close to someone tonight, because we're going to look after you. So yeah.
Oh, that's insane. I know the World Champs are coming up next year in New Zealand for triathlon. So let's talk about that. How did you qualify?
This is a fun one. So I lost my job at a gym, or a few gyms, and started to move with COVID to a lot of online trainer sessions and online corporate sessions. And at one point, I think I was teaching something like 15 classes online, filming in my shed a week. And that was a lot. And so to try and break up the screen time, I was spending a lot of time on my bike, and I'd get on my bike around 4 a.m, and then I'd get off around 7, and I'd ride all around Adelaide and and sort of get in and out while no one was about. And it was so quiet on the roads. It was glorious. And my cycling fitness got really fast. And I had a bit of extra time on my hands. So I started running a lot more, a little of swimming, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And I qualified in Geelong in 2019. And the race was set for December 2020, which, as you can imagine, with no one travelling,
Yeah.
was cancelled, delayed until finally it's December 2024. So
How exciting.
Yeah.
And this is in New Zealand, yeah?
this is in Taupo in New Zealand. So I'm very excited. So I'm going to head over pre-Christmas for a bit of a healthy holiday with the family.
Yeah.
Very excited to say, as of last weekend, I think we've got another 8 Lakers, which is Lakers Triathlete Club members, coming to join, who've qualified at the 70.3 in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So that's super exciting. Going to have a whole lot of mates there as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just talking about Melbourne, I had a few friends who raced as well, and the
Yep.
conditions there were insane.
Yeah. Sounds like pretty rough.
Yeah, yeah. I think Steve McKenna also qualified through that race too.
Oh, he had already qualified. hadn't
Not
he?
for 70.3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, so he qualified to go through and do that race, even
Oh,
though,
that's
and then he's
exciting.
doing Busso full.
Wow.
So prepping for that.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll probably build up a little more of my training from January.
Yep.
I guess having 6 weeks off work is definitely going to help.
Yep.
If it was 6 weeks off work with kids still at school, that would help my training a lot more. But I think we have to cut that bit out. I'm not allowed to say that.
From there, the change of career into teaching.
Ooh.
Let's
yeah.
go into that.
So again, the same thing when I heard the COVID had hit the world and I'd lost various jobs and I was training and running these classes online in my studio out the back of my house, which is interesting when you've got 2 young kids, because you're trying to run a yoga class and you're hearing this banging on the tin door, like, Mom, let me in. I'm like,
Yeah.
and everyone take a nice deep breath in and shh. But everyone's the
gold.
same. You can hear kids coming in the background. You can hear partners. You can see cats, dogs. Like, it's hilarious. It was like a comedy. But they're like, I can hear your kid. Do you want to go get that? I was like, and thank you very much. Namaste. Goodbye. Close enough to the end. That'll do.
Yeah.
But everyone gets it. You know, we're all in the same boat. We're all at home kind of stuck doing
Yeah.
our thing. So I presented a lot to the wheelie bin in my shed because it was the right height to hold the laptop on the right angle to be able to see everything, whether it was a stretch class, a yoga class, a Pilates class, a fitness class, whatever it was.
So good.
So that was, it was sort of making me want to think about, do I really want to do this for the next 20 years?
Yep.
And in a way I thought, yes, it will be something that I always do, but I want to make sure that my skill set is varied as well.
Yep.
And how can I make sure I'm around to help out my family when they're going through school for the next 10 years? So I thought I'll go into teaching, and I'll start with primary teaching because those people will laugh at my jokes.
Was this kind of like influenced by homeschooling the kids as well?
Well, it was a bit. So I quite enjoyed that. And I quite enjoyed, like, when it was a day where we had to go and do a task and they'd have, what could you do and what could you practice for home learning? I was like, right, let's go and do some science. Let's go down by the Billabong and catch some fish. And we borrow the neighbour's pool net, and like I've got like the Pied Piper with like 4 little kids behind me going, yeah, let's go catch some
Oh my
tadpoles.
God.
So yeah, I found that part quite fun, and I didn't find the maths or English too hard for that particular age group. It's more about making it engaging. So
Yeah.
I think that was why I thought that was going to suit. But I actually didn't know for a while what I was going to do. So I started interviewing people. My mum, bless her, she's like, so I want you to write 500 words on why you want to be a teacher, and then 500 words. This is the last 2 I got down to. I want to be a teacher or a nurse. And she write 500 words on why you want to be a nurse. And I wrote the teaching one, no worries. And then I started to write why I want to be a nurse. I got about 3 lines in. I was like, I don't want to be a nurse. I don't want to be a nurse. But I interviewed OTs. I interviewed counsellors, I interviewed physios. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to go back to uni. And I ran with my running buddies, like, what do you think I should do? And I got lots of different opinions, but most of them were about teaching. So
How
it
good.
was really interesting.
And what age group are you teaching now?
So I'm teaching year 3, which is very
That's a
exciting.
good age. Like,
Yeah.
that's where they kind of come into themselves. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not just all routines like reception year 1.
Yeah.
And it's not all, I've decided exactly who I'm going to be or who my friends are.
Yeah.
They're still sort of playing around with identity and a bit of regulation.
Yeah.
And so it kind of reflects on you. So you kind of think a bit more about your own regulation and your own
Yeah.
identity. So
Oh,
I think it's quite interesting. It's nothing quite like teaching to teach you about yourself. But I'm sure you notice that when you're training people, you're like learning
Yeah.
about your cues and what you say and what you get used to.
Yeah.
Mm.
So since you've been a trainer for a while, so we met because you taught me to be a trainer. What's your like 5 tips for somebody wanting to become a trainer? So there can be like tips about anything.
Absolutely. I think one of the best things to do is to practice on small groups of friends for free or for very low cost, even when you're just still doing your qualifications. Because if you can handle the heckling from your mates while still running a session, you're going to be a great trainer.
Yeah, true.
Everyone other than your friends and family are going to be much more polite to you than your friends
Yeah.
and family. So I think that's a fun one to do as well. It's kind of like rent a crowd. So you get used to what's it like. I remember when
Yeah.
I first started out, I got a whole group of people from the surf club because I was a volunteer surf lifesaver on Bronte Beach for 8 years. And so I got a whole lot of people from the surf club and a whole lot of mates to come and make my sessions look popular immediately. So you're not just training 2 people, you're immediately training 20 people and you immediately look popular
Yeah.
in wherever you're going to be. Tell everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell everyone how excited you are. You know, and I think there's nothing that makes people want to do things more than someone who's enthusiastic about stuff. So
Yeah.
I
Get the
tell
word
the
out.
person in the supermarket, I would go and tell, someone walking down the street, I'm like, oh, so excited. I've just done this qualification. I can't wait to get out and, share it with people and, fake it till you make it. Doesn't need to be.
Oh, absolutely. I think also having that interest in fitness before also helps because people are like, oh, she's fit. She must know what she's talking about before you actually go and learn how to actually teach it.
Absolutely. Well, maybe one day next year I can go and pick up a day of PE. Let's see, let's see how we go.
Everybody, we're doing a triathlon for PE class today.
Start with a duathlon because I don't think they've got a pool, but
Okay, true. Everybody bring your bikes to school for PE today.
that'd be great.
It'd be so fun.
Yeah. So I think the second to last one is just being on top of your planning and organisation. I think what I did when I first started in the fitness industry, I know this is really old school, but I had a spreadsheet and down the side I had hours of the day, and I'm not talking like 5 till 5. I'm talking like 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. And I'm going all the way through and I'm planning in my sessions with clients.
Yep.
I'm planning in my own sessions. I'm planning in my sleep.
Yeah.
I'm planning in when I eat and just making sure you know how you're going to hit those markers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to be a good trainer because you won't have time for your own training.
Yeah.
And you'll miss out on, family events because you're doing too much work. So I decided I wanted to train for my first Ironman whilst running a fitness business, and I decided I was only going to run 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. sessions Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So Tuesday and Thursday mornings I could spend on the bike, so I could do 70 Ks before I ran any sessions on those days, and I'd only run corporate sessions from 10 a.m. And then the same way I'd plan my runs Monday and Wednesday night, but I'd make sure that was either after the session or I'd then try and run in between the 6 a.m. and the 9 a.m. sessions, so I could run 20 Ks in those little slots to try and cram it all in.
No, I think that's really important, being able to fit your own training in while being a trainer so that you do understand where your clients are coming from, and then they can also see if you can reach your goals by training yourself. You must be all right.
Certainly. Absolutely.
I think like some of my biggest goals I achieved while being a trainer full time.
Yeah.
Like I got the best in triathlon while doing that.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
so fit back then.
Yeah.
Then I got an office job and
yeah. Oh, it's hard,
but
isn't it?
fitness is very good to have as a side job as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hang on, is that 5 or 4?
I'm not sure. I'm going to give you one more just in
give
case.
me one more. Just in case. I will just cut it if it's not.
So if we count back and we realise, get good counting. No.
Terrible
Don't worry
trainers
about that one.
are terrible counters and you'll never get away with that.
No, I think I just try and delegate the counting as well.
Oh yeah.
You don't have
1,
to count
2,
yourself.
For a few, you
No,
can't.
no. Someone else can count, particularly if it's a group scenario, because you don't need to do that. And
You know what I like doing? I like, instead of counting your reps, I just do it for time. The time doesn't change on my watch. Like, do you know what I mean? I put the stopwatch on.
Absolutely. And that works because if you're training a whole range of groups, you're not forcing everyone to do the same thing. And that's not differentiation. You need, one person might need 40 reps in that time and the other person might need just to do 8 or 12.
Exactly.
And it's about going, you do 8, you do 12, try and get to that number in the time frame, but we're all going to go for a minute.
Yeah, well, I teach a lot of running classes at the moment, and so it's like different distances, and you get to that in that time. And
Absolutely.
It's great for
Makes
not
a lot
having
of
to
sense.
count.
Yeah, personalise. I think that's the one.
I just
Probably
have to count how many times they ran back and forward
Yeah.
rather than how long it took them.
So let's, in a roundabout way, let's call number 5 personalisation.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And don't worry if you can't count because there's ways around it. So a sliding door moment in your life. What's a time where you had to either turn left or right in a decision that changed your life to where it is now?
Ooh, I've got a couple.
Yeah.
One of them, which was really interesting, which, I don't ever regret things I've done. It's always things you haven't done. I was on a trip with my grandfather, helping him with some tours and planning in Europe and France and London. And I think it was around 2006. And I've been in contact with a business in Bali, and I went for a job interview in London for a job in Bali.
Okay.
And it just happened, the timing worked out, and I went there and I had a chat, and he said, like, we're really keen to get you on board, had a look at your qualifications, just what are you thinking about in terms of remuneration? I think I'd bought my first property a couple of years before, and I basically showed him the number, and he's like, I can offer you half of that.
Oh.
And I was like, can't even pay my mortgage with what you're going to offer me, and you want me to work 6 days a week, which has less incentive for me if I'm going to be living in Bali, in the centre in Ubud, because I won't even get down to the surf beach and back in that time. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, is this really something I want to do for half the amount of pay? And, it is that kind of thing. It would have been amazing to do,
Yeah.
but, long term, I guess, maybe it is something I can do later.
Yeah,
Who
exactly.
knows?
Your
Who
retirement
knows?
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So instead of doing that, what did you do?
So instead of doing that, I went back to Sydney. I bought a fitness franchise. I presented at the fitness convention a couple of times.
Yep.
And I think I changed into working for I got a few more corporate contracts. So
Yep.
running fitness sessions for Ernst & Young, Citigroup, Fairfax, and a few other companies.
Oh, that's insane. Who, out of those corporate ones, who's like the most iconic person you remember training?
I'm not sure if I can remember that. There's always just personalities in all of them. So,
yeah. Like nobody famous that you remember?
No, I think mainly the famous people have been either like directors and things like that have,
Yeah.
or film stars or things like that. But it hasn't been a
Like well-known names kind of thing. Unless you're in the industry, you'd know them.
yeah.
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 Yeah, right. What are you consuming at the moment, as in podcasts, TV shows, books?
All right, let's start with books.
Yeah.
So what I've read twice recently is Lessons in Chemistry,
Oh, yeah.
which I really love.
I've seen this. What's
Yeah.
it about?
So it's about a young woman in the 60s, and she's a chemist, and she's not taken seriously at work, and there's basically just a whole culture of misogyny, and it's about her standing up for herself and empowering other women, which is great. I'll bring it to you so you can read it at the gym. Yeah,
Great, thank you.
And then I've also just started, Cadell Evans has got The Art of Cycling.
Okay.
And yeah, that's really inspiring. Like just the way he trains and the way he's travelled and how he's motivated himself in his transition from mountain biking to road cycling. So
Oh,
it's really
cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
So those two, I guess, have been those. In terms of podcasts, other than yours, of course.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
I do like The Unteachables.
Yep.
Like Sue Larkey, who talks about helping students with emotional regulation.
Yeah.
And I also like The Imperfects.
Love the Imperfects.
Yeah.
I went and saw them on stage a couple of
did
weeks
you?
ago. Oh my God. It was not what I expected
Yeah.
it to be, but like it was amazing. And then Dr. M walked out and was there as well. And I was like, this is amazing.
Fun girl.
Just a little. I
Yeah.
think because it's not very often that people talk about like mental health and life stories and the way that they go into in depthly with the stars that they talk
Yeah,
to is
absolutely.
insane.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I get so excited on a Monday when they post who they've got on, and I'm like, oh my God, I just want to get to work and listen to it.
Oh, because I listened to it on the bike on the way to work.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
It's-
so I'm like laughing out loud, riding my bike to work, and people riding past going, what is going on with that lady?
She's just listening to Hugh Van Cuylenburg try to be as funny as
Yep.
what's his shoulder. Oh, funny. Listener question was, did PT help you become a teacher now? What do you find like the similarities in between the two types of teaching?
Ooh. There's definitely similarities. I think teaching is teaching, whether it's fitness, whether it's corporate team building,
Yep.
whether it's maths, science. It's about engagement, personalisation. then content. But you have to get, I guess, the connection first.
Yeah.
And then you can try and make it as engaging as possible by trying to make it. I mean, the last thing anyone wants is like death by worksheet. So trying to make it as engaging as possible by using different, I guess, manipulatives and ideas. I mean, to learn about measurement by measuring a piece of paper is boring, but to go out into the yard and to actually figure out how you would measure different things, whether it's capacity, volume, distance, by using different tools, like that's way more engaging. Like if you have to put something together and you have to measure it and figure out, or if you're trying to figure out like what's the length, height and distance between things. Yeah.
Pretty much the same as measuring out like a truck when you're making people run.
Those sorts of things as well. And I think a lot of them, when you think about how we use measurement, we look at the Strava, we're looking at stats, we're looking at information, we're looking at time per kilometre, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I use it every day for my job as well. Drawing houses, like you've got to have the concept of how big you want a room and how thick bricks are. And
Absolutely.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
One of my members from boot camp this morning, we actually had a yoga class, and I wanted to ask you, how do you react when somebody lets off a bodily noise during a class?
Oh, I love
Have you
this.
had any funny ones?
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to know a story.
Oh, yeah. So most of the time, particularly if it's online, we just ignore it because otherwise people get too distracted. But if everyone's like having a bit of a giggle, I like try and do deadpan, and I talk about in yoga class, it's a really good opportunity to have an emotional or physical release. And I got to keep deadpan. I'm like, no. So,
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to
and
laugh.
the other one I quite like is bless you. Bless all of you. And they're like, I didn't sneeze. I'm like, I thought it was a sneeze.
Just a sneeze from the other end. When they said for me to ask you that, I was like, oh, God, I can't. But I was like, yeah, I can.
Yeah, you can. You can. Because we got a few tactics.
It's so funny. So my favourite part of the podcast,
Yep.
it's called 5 Fast Questions.
Okay.
The numbers are between 1 and 20. You got to spit out the number and then you got to say as soon as what comes to your mind. I'm not going to give you time to think about it because the best answers come when you say it straight away.
This
All
is
right.
definitely have to get edited.
No,
None of this will be appropriate.
This is actually the only part I really don't edit because the answers are so good that come out straight away.
Yep.
All right, choose your first number.
19.
Okay, number 19. If the Olympics call you to compete in any sport, what are you competing in?
Modern pentathlon. Give me the gun. And the horse. Let me at it. Let's go.
So we're going to Paris next year. And
Might give me a bit more time, eh?
and next question.
2.
Okay, if you're having coffee with somebody dead or alive, who is it with?
My grandfather.
That's my answer to you, to always to that one.
Definitely.
What would you say?
Wow.
First thing that comes to your mind?
I miss you.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah.
I'd almost say, look where I've gotten to now because of the things you told me or taught me. Yeah.
I think that's already a given. Like certainly, like I can't even delete his number on my phone. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It comes into mind like if I've ever achieved something. Oh, it's such a tough subject because it's always in my mind.
Yeah.
Like it's just a person that if anything ever happens, I'm like, what would he think or what would he say to me?
Absolutely.
Or like interesting. But yeah, similar. All right, next number.
17.
Okay, we're going to favourite car. If you could have like your dream car and no matter the price tag, you could have it.
Aston Martin DB7 in powder blue.
And when have you ordered this?
I've got a 10-year-old. I have to talk about this all the time.
Oh, funny. Next one.
11.
As a kid, what job did you want?
As a kid, I wrote a book which said that I wanted to be a Olympic something teacher something. There were like 5 things, and I was going to have 5 kids as well.
Right.
So
Where's the other 3?
I've got 8 goldfish, I've got a dog, and I've got a turtle.
Yep, and 2
So,
kids.
We're done.
It's pretty much. Yeah, there's your 5.
Yeah.
And a little bit more. Nice. And last one.
15.
All right, number 15 is your favourite place in the world and why?
My favourite place in the world is
First thing?
Bali,
Yeah.
and
Have you got a specific spot?
it has to be for the combination of surfing, running. I'm going to say Nusa Lembongan.
Yep.
Yep. And it's got to be about the surfing, running, freedom, food, everything about it. Like I love Indonesia, and
Mm.
I love the people, I love the culture, I love the beaches, I love the surf.
So good.
I love the freedom, and I love the fact last time I was there, I just got to run every day and surf
Yeah.
every day, and it was so good.
And because it was hot, your flexibility was great.
Oh yeah, a little bit of that.
Well, thank you so much for sparing some time to come on today. It was such a great chat.
Absolute pleasure, anytime. And I will bring you that book to the gym.
Thank
you. I'm sure I'll see you out at a triathlon. Oh, hang on.
So this will come out a couple of weeks after, but
Yep. Yeah, that's a
I
great idea.
edited
So
it
it's
after.
happening tomorrow. I have got a VIP swimmer and a VIP runner, and I'm going to take the bike.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
race report upcoming.
When I saw you posted that, I was like, I've only been training for the swim. So if you want me, that's all you have.
Excellent. Well, I've only swum once since August if it wasn't a race, so I need you.
I've been swimming 3 times a week. We're sorted.
Oh, look at you go. Love it.
Hey guys, so quickly just jumping in to tell you about that race report. It was such a good race. I did the swim. Oh my god, I haven't swum in the ocean in years, so it was horrible. Anyway, Millie made up the time on the bike, and then we had a cracking run over the finish line, and I think we came within the top 10, but there was no leaderboard, but I'm just claiming it.
But thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you heaps. Wow, isn't Millie fantastic? She's lived such an exciting life. And look, she just keeps getting better. And the way that she works through inspiring everyone and women just to get the best out of themselves, like, she's bloody amazing. It's reco time! This week, my reco is, you know what? I'm going to double reco the same podcast, but they interviewed 2 different people in the last month, and that was bloody amazing. So it's actually the Imperfects, as I spoke about with Millie. And my favourite one was the one they just did with Gina Chick. She's the lady who won Alone on the SBS show that was set in Tassie. And just the way they did the interview outside, it was so different, and the questions they were asking were insane. And then the second one was the week before that, they did Hamish McDonald. He's the presenter on the project, and he's also like a very world-renowned foreign correspondent journalist, which I actually didn't know that much about his past. But yeah, very interesting man on how he used to report from war zones, and yeah, very in-depth. So while we're on the topic of recommendations, why don't you use this as your recommendation for the week? So send it to a friend, and you know, we love sharing good things. So also don't forget to please like, subscribe, share, whether you're on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. You know, if you loved it, share it around. Put it on your social media stories. Help this little pod grow, because we love things when they grow. And coming to the end now, so next week is going to be our season final of season 1. Can you believe that will be 20 episodes of the Wellness League podcast, and so many of you have stuck around from the beginning and you're still here. Thank you very much. So season 2 will start early to mid-Jan next year, and I have some super exciting guests lined up, and if you knew who they were, you won't want to be waiting. So have a wonderful rest of your day, have the best week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye!